Hey, I'm Sophia. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories take their time, and they are told the way I'd tell a friend late at night. I really hope you enjoy them. This story has one update on it and my own opinion at the end. Comment and tell me if you agree. Let's begin. I caught my sister trying to sabotage my promotion. I turned the tables in a major way. My sister's finger hovered over the trackpad like she was about to launch a missile, and I swear I felt the blood drain out of my face before my brain even caught up to what I was seeing. The conference room was dark except for the blue glow of her laptop and the strip of city light leaking through the blinds. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner and the faint rattle of the ice machine down the hall, and underneath it all, my own pulse thudding in my ears. "Lauren," I said, and my voice came out thin and sharp, like it scraped my throat on the way out. She didn't turn around. She didn't flinch. She just clicked, calm as anything, and the email whooshed away. Then she finally looked at me over her shoulder with this tiny smile, like I'd just walked in on her stealing a cookie instead of trying to kneecap my career. "Oh," she said, blinking slowly. "You're still here." It was a Tuesday night, the kind where the office feels like a hollow building pretending to be alive. Lights dimmed, cleaning crew gone, the smell of burnt coffee and printer toner hanging in the air. I'd stayed late because my director, Malcolm, had scheduled my promotion panel for Thursday morning. It wasn't a casual, "we'll chat about your future" meeting. It was a formal review with HR, the VP of operations, and 2 department heads who didn't know me beyond spreadsheets and client notes. I'd been building a deck for weeks, rehearsing numbers until they sounded like a second language. The promotion was to senior project lead, which sounds boring on paper, but in our company it's the jump from you work hard to you make decisions. The pay bump would mean I could finally stop doing that humiliating thing where you calculate groceries in your head like you're doing a math quiz with your dignity on the line. It would also mean I'd be leading the account I'd basically been running anyway, just without the title. I thought the biggest threat was my own nerves. I didn't think the threat would be my sister. For context, I'm 30F and my sister Lauren is 28F. We work at the same mid-sized logistics tech company because I recommended her. I know. Every time I tell this story, I want to go back in time and slap my past self gently but firmly. When Lauren got laid off from her last job, she was crying in my car, mascara streaking down her cheeks, saying she couldn't catch a break and just needed someone to give her a chance. Our parents were in the background of that conversation too, in the way they always are with Lauren, quietly pushing, always sympathetic to her, always framing her as the one who's been wronged by life. My mom said, "She's your sister, Hannah. You have to help her." My dad said, "Family looks after family." And I believed them because I'd spent my entire life being the reliable one. The one who fixes, smooths, supports. The one who doesn't make a fuss. Lauren got hired into my department as a junior coordinator. At first, I thought it would be fine. We're adults. We can separate work from family. She'll be grateful. She'll grow. She'll stabilize. That was the storyline I wanted. The real storyline was, Lauren watched me like I was a measuring stick she hated. I've always been the one who's doing well. Not in a flashy way. I'm not the kind of person who posts wins online. I'm the kind of person who quietly pays her bills, keeps her head down, does her job, and hopes someone notices without me having to beg for it. Lauren is the opposite. She needs an audience. She needs validation like oxygen. Growing up, she could cry, and the whole house would rearrange itself to soothe her. If I cried, my mom would say, "You're strong. You'll be fine." Which sounds like a compliment until you realize it means you don't get to need anything. At work, Lauren started small with the little digs. She'd make jokes when people complimented my work. Of course, Hannah nailed it. She loves spreadsheets more than people. She'd accidentally forget to add me to email chains for client updates, then act surprised when I didn't have the information. She'd tell coworkers personal stories about me that made me sound uptight or controlling. Hannah's the kind of person who color codes her fridge, she'd laugh, even though I don't, but people would chuckle anyway because it fits some kind of narrative. I tried to ignore it. I tried to be the bigger sister, the calm one, the professional one. Then I started noticing patterns that weren't just annoying, they were strategic. 2 months ago, we had a client escalation. A delivery integration went sideways, and the client's IT team was furious. I stepped in, worked through the weekend, fixed the timeline, held the calls, smoothed everything over. On Monday, Malcolm praised the team, and Lauren, in front of everyone, said, "Well, I did handle most of the comms." I remember staring at her like she'd spoken in a different language. She said it with such casual confidence that for a second I actually questioned my own memory. Then I pulled up the email chain later and saw my name on almost every message. Her name? 2 emails, both forwarded from me. When I confronted her privately, she shrugged and said, "We're a team, right? Why are you so sensitive?" That phrase, "so sensitive," became her go-to whenever I tried to hold her accountable. Last month, Malcolm started hinting at a promotion for me. "I'm pushing for it," he said in a one-on-one, leaning back in his chair like he was delivering good news as casually as possible. "You're already operating at that level." I felt my whole body go warm with relief. Then he added, "But you know how these panels are. You'll need to show impact. Quantify everything." I went home that night and told Lauren because I was stupid enough to think she'd be happy for me. She paused mid-scroll on her phone, looked up and said, "Wow, that's soon. Not congratulations. Not proud. Just soon, like it was suspicious." Then she asked, "What would you even do differently in that role?" Like she was genuinely confused why anyone would choose me. After that, she started circling. She asked weird questions about my presentation deck. "Do you have it finished? Who's on the panel? Are you nervous?" She offered to help with my slides, which would have been funny if it didn't make my skin crawl. She started staying late too, suddenly, hovering around the printer when I printed drafts, lingering near my desk when I'd step away for water. I told myself I was imagining it, because the alternative, that my sister was actively trying to hurt me, felt too ugly to hold in my head. Until Tuesday night. I'd gone to the kitchenette to grab water and returned to find Lauren in the conference room with her laptop open, my printed draft deck beside her like she'd been studying it. That alone was weird because no one uses that room after hours unless they're hiding. I froze in the doorway, the water bottle cold and slippery in my hand, and saw the email on her screen. Addressed to Malcolm, with HR CC'd. Subject line: Concern re. Hannah's readiness for senior project lead. My stomach actually dropped. Like, physical drop. Like my body thought the floor had disappeared. The email was long. It was written in that fake professional tone people use when they want to sound concerned while lighting a match. Lauren wrote that she'd observed patterns in my leadership, that I struggled under pressure, that I sometimes reacted emotionally, that I had difficulty collaborating, that I created a tense environment and micromanaged. She included 2 examples, both twisted versions of things that had happened, both framed to make me look unstable. She ended with, "I say this with respect, but I'm concerned promoting her right now could create risk for the team and client relationships." Then I saw the attachment. A screenshot of a Slack message that made my face go numb. It was a message that looked like it was from me saying, "If you can't do your job, don't bother showing up tomorrow." It was rude, threatening, completely not me. And she was about to send it to my director and HR. That's when I stepped into the room and said her name. She clicked send anyway. I stood there staring at her, my brain trying to do the math of what that email would do. My promotion panel was Thursday. If Malcolm saw that and believed even 10% of it, I'd be done. Not just for this role. For any role. Because once someone labels you difficult, it sticks. It becomes the background noise of your reputation. Lauren closed her laptop with a soft click, like she'd just finished an assignment. "You shouldn't sneak up on people," she said, and there was a tiny tremor of excitement in her eyes. Not fear. Excitement. Like she'd been waiting for me to catch her so she could watch my face. Why? I managed, because my throat felt like it had been lined with sandpaper. "Why are you doing this?" She shrugged, standing up, smoothing her blazer like She was leaving a meeting. I'm protecting the team, she said sweetly. You've been intense lately. And Malcolm listens to me too, you know. I laughed once, a sharp sound that surprised me. Malcolm barely knows you, I said. Lauren's smile tightened. He knows enough, she replied. And HR will care about culture issues. Trust me. My hands were shaking so hard I set my water bottle down on the conference table to keep from dropping it. That screenshot isn't real, I said. Lauren tilted her head. It could be, she said lightly. Screenshots are funny like that. Something cold moved through me. Not panic. Something clearer. Did you fake that? I asked. She didn't answer directly. She stepped closer, lowering her voice like we were sharing a secret. You always get everything, she said, and for the first time her mask slipped. You always have. Mom and Dad don't even realize it, but you're their pride. You don't even try, and you just win. And I'm tired of being the one who's behind. This isn't about you being behind, I said. This is you pushing me down. Lauren's eyes flashed. Don't be dramatic, she snapped, then immediately softened again. I'm just leveling the field. I left that room on legs that felt like they weren't mine. I walked to my desk, sat down, and stared at my monitor while my mind replayed the email whoosh sound in my head like a siren. My first instinct was to call Malcolm right then. To beg. To explain. To sound desperate and emotional and exactly like the person Lauren had just described. I didn't. I took a slow breath and did the thing I've learned to do when my world is shaking. I got specific. I got factual. I got organized. I opened my phone and recorded a voice memo to myself, describing exactly what I'd seen, exactly what she'd said, and the time. I took a photo of the printed draft deck on the conference table with her laptop in the background. I checked the conference room booking log. Yes, our company has one, and saw her name had been used to reserve it, even though no one reserves rooms after hours. I emailed myself a note with the details, so it was time-stamped. Then I opened Slack and searched my sent messages for the phrase in the fake screenshot. Nothing. I took screenshots of that too. And then I did something I'm not proud of, but I'm also not sorry about. I set a trap. Lauren had been sloppy. She assumed I'd react emotionally and publicly. She assumed I'd go crying to Malcolm and look unstable. She assumed I'd try to confront her again without proof, and she could deny it. So I sent her a message from my work email. Subject: Can we talk? Body: Lauren, I saw the email you sent to Malcolm and HR. I'm asking you to retract it. Also, the screenshot you attached is not real. Please respond to confirm you created it, because I'm documenting this. I stared at that email for a full minute before sending it, because it felt like stepping onto thin ice. Then I hit send. Lauren replied 30 minutes later, probably thinking she was clever. I didn't create anything. I'm just sharing my experience. If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. There it was. Not a confession, but not a denial about altering evidence either. And more importantly, proof she knew exactly what I was talking about. At 9:40 p.m., I emailed Malcolm. Hi Malcolm, can we meet first thing tomorrow morning? Something serious came up regarding my promotion panel, and I need to discuss it in person. I have documentation. I kept it calm. Professional. No accusations in writing yet. Then I went home and didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling my heartbeat in my ribs like a trapped animal. My hands kept tingling. I kept replaying Lauren's face, that tiny pleased smile. I'd never seen her look that satisfied in my presence. It made me feel sick. In the morning, I walked into the office with my folder of screenshots and my stomach knotted, so tight it felt like I was carrying a stone. Malcolm met me in a small meeting room at 8:15. He looked tired and irritated, like he'd been pulled into something he didn't want. What's going on? He asked. I slid my phone across the table and said, Lauren sent you an email last night. His expression flickered. Yes, he said carefully. I nodded. She wrote it after I walked in on her drafting it, I said. And she attached a screenshot that's fabricated. I've never sent that message. I have proof. Malcolm leaned back, face tightening. That's a big claim, he said. I know, I replied, and my voice shook slightly despite my effort. That's why I didn't call you in a panic. I documented everything. Here. I showed him my Slack history with no matching message, my screenshots of the search results, the voice memo timestamp, the email I sent Lauren asking her to confirm, her response, the photo of the deck and her laptop, the room reservation log. Malcolm's jaw clenched harder as he scrolled. This is, he began, then stopped. I looked at him steadily. I'm not asking you to take my word, I said. I'm asking you to investigate. Because if she's willing to do this to me, she'll do it to someone else. Malcolm exhaled slowly. HR is already looped in, he said. I have to handle this formally. I want it handled formally, I said. He nodded once. Okay, he said. Leave this with me. And Hannah, don't engage with her. At all. I didn't reply. Because it was almost funny to me that the advice always lands on the person being targeted. Don't engage. Don't react. Stay calm. As if my calm was the real risk. That's where I'm going to pause the main story midway, because that meeting was the first time I realized I could actually flip this. I didn't have to be the quiet victim of Lauren's jealousy. I could force the truth into a room with adults and policies and consequences. Lauren's behavior isn't normal sibling rivalry. It's calculated. She didn't just want to complain or vent. She wanted to get HR involved and attach fake evidence so my reputation would take a permanent hit. That's not hurt. That's sabotage with a paper trail. The worst part is the way she tries to dress it up as concern, like she's doing the company a favor by warning them about me. People like that hide behind professional language because it makes their cruelty sound reasonable. Malcolm's reaction was exactly what I expected. Cautious, skeptical at first, because no manager wants to admit they hired a walking disaster. But the fact he listened and didn't immediately dismiss me matters. And me? I'm proud I didn't fall into the trap of sounding frantic and emotional, even though I was shaking inside. Women especially get labeled reactive so fast at work, and Lauren was banking on that. I also think it's important to say that the parents who push the family helps family line rarely mean help in a way that protects everyone. They mean help in a way that keeps the troublemaker comfortable. I recommended Lauren because I believe the version of her that cries about being unlucky. I didn't want to see the version of her that resents anyone who's stable. And I hate admitting it, but there's something almost satisfying about catching her in a way she can't talk her way out of. If she'd just been rude or petty, she could have spun it. But fake screenshots? That's a hard line. That's the kind of thing that should end someone's career, not derail mine. Update. Okay, so after I posted about this, and after a lot of you told me to stop treating sabotage like a family issue and start treating it like workplace misconduct, things got very real very fast. HR moved quicker than I expected. Like, within hours. At 11:30 a.m. that same day, I got a calendar invite titled HR Check-in from Tanya, our HR business partner. It was scheduled for 1 p.m. and included Malcolm, Tanya, and someone from IT security. My stomach did that sinking thing again, but this time it was mixed with relief because it meant Malcolm actually escalated it, not swept it under the rug. I went into the meeting room, and Lauren was already there. No one told me she would be there. She was sitting at the far end of the table, legs crossed, a pen in her hand like she was ready to take notes. She looked calm, almost smug. She wore a cream blouse that screamed, "I'm innocent and organized." When I walked in, she gave me a tiny smile like we were both in on a joke. I froze for half a second, then forced myself to sit. My palms were damp. I rubbed them discreetly on my trousers. Tanya began with the kind of tone HR people use when they want to sound neutral while holding a fire extinguisher. "Thank you for meeting," she said. "We're here to clarify concerns raised in an email sent last night and additional concerns raised this morning." Lauren spoke first. "I just want to say I'm really uncomfortable," she said, voice soft. "I tried to do the right thing, and now I feel like I'm being attacked." I stared at her, genuinely stunned by how fast she flipped into victim mode. The IT guy, Daniel, slid a laptop toward Tanya and said, "We pulled metadata on the screenshot attachment." Lauren's smile flickered. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Tanya looked at Lauren. Lauren, can you explain where you obtained this screenshot? She asked. Lauren took a breath and said, It was sent to me. By who? Tanya asked. Lauren hesitated. She began. Daniel spoke again, calmly. The image file was created on Lauren's company device at 9:12 p.m. last night, he said. It was edited in a mobile app associated with Lauren's phone. It was then emailed from Lauren's laptop at 9:18 p.m. The room went so still it felt like the air thickened. Lauren blinked rapidly. That's not possible, she said, but her voice wavered. Daniel didn't change expression. It is possible, he said, because that's what the logs show. Lauren's cheeks flushed. She turned toward me. You went to IT? She hissed, and there it was, the real Lauren, the one who forgets to keep her mask on when she feels cornered. Tanya held up a hand. Lauren, she said firmly, this is not about interpersonal conflict. This is about falsified documentation and misuse of company communication channels. Lauren looked back at Tanya, eyes shiny. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. I was upset. Hannah has been really harsh with me. I felt my jaw tighten. Harsh how? I asked, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. Lauren exhaled dramatically. You talk down to me, she said. You make me feel stupid. You act like you're better than everyone. Malcolm finally spoke, voice flat. Lauren, that is not what this meeting is about, he said. You sent an email to me and HR attempting to influence a promotion decision with fabricated evidence. Lauren's eyes darted. I didn't fabricate, she started. Daniel slid another printed page across the table. We also pulled the conference room booking, he said. You reserved it at 8:50 p.m. You accessed Hannah's presentation draft on the printer at 8:47 p.m. Security camera confirms you retrieved it. Lauren's lips parted slightly. She looked like someone had turned the lights on too fast. Tanya leaned forward. Lauren, she said, now using the voice that means the conversation is over. Do you understand the seriousness of this? Lauren's shoulders lifted and dropped quickly. I didn't want her to get promoted, she said suddenly, and it came out like a confession she couldn't hold in anymore. It's not fair. She always gets picked. My stomach turned, not because I was shocked, but because hearing it out loud made it impossible to pretend this was a misunderstanding. Tanya nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty, she said, and her tone was not kind. We're going to place you on administrative leave effective immediately while we complete an investigation. You will surrender your badge and laptop to IT on your way out. Lauren's head snapped up. What? She said, voice sharp. No. You can't. This is my job. Malcolm looked at her, expression hard. This was your choice, he said. Lauren turned toward me, eyes blazing. Are you happy? She spat, and I felt my whole body tense. I met her gaze. I'm tired, I said quietly. That's what I am. She stood abruptly, chair scraping. You've always hated me, she said, voice loud enough that someone outside might have heard. Tanya said, Lauren, in a warning tone, and Lauren stormed out. I sat there shaking, not with victory, but with that weird aftershock you get when you survive something you've been bracing for. Malcolm rubbed his forehead and said, I'm sorry you were put in that position. Tanya asked me if I felt safe. Like physically safe. That question made my throat tighten because it confirmed something. This wasn't family drama. This was misconduct serious enough for HR to ask about safety. Within 2 hours, Lauren texted me from her personal number. You ruined my life. Then, Mom is going to kill you. Then, hope your promotion is worth it. I didn't reply. I took screenshots and sent them to Tanya as requested. That evening, my mom called. I stared at the phone until it stopped ringing. Then she texted, call me now. Then, how could you do this to your sister? My dad texted later. We need to talk. My hands were still trembling when I poured myself a glass of water. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall, thinking about how predictable this was. Lauren hurts me. I defend myself, and suddenly I'm the one who did something. The next day, Malcolm called me into his office. He looked exhausted. I want you to know, he said, your promotion panel is still happening. We're proceeding as planned. I swallowed hard. Okay, I said. He hesitated. And, Hannah, I owe you an apology, he said, and that alone shocked me more than anything. Malcolm is not an emotional man. When I read her email last night, a small part of me wondered if I'd missed something. I shouldn't have. Your work speaks for itself. I didn't know what to do with that. I just nodded because if I spoke, I might cry, and I didn't want to cry in Malcolm's office. Then, because the universe loves timing, Lauren's best friend from work, Sienna, cornered me near the elevators and said, Lauren said you set her up.
Set
Set her up how? I asked. Sienna crossed her arms. She said you baited her into writing that email and then ran to HR. I felt a cold calm settle. She fabricated a screenshot. I said, IT has logs. HR has evidence. This isn't a rumor. It's documented. Sienna's face shifted slightly. Not fully convinced, but unsettled. She's really upset, she said weakly. I'm really upset too, I replied. I just didn't commit fraud about it. Sienna walked away. By Friday, Lauren's administrative leave became termination. HR sent a company-wide email in vague language about a breach of policy and the importance of integrity. Lauren's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. People avoided my eyes in the hallway like I was radioactive. A couple of coworkers messaged privately to say they were sorry and they admired how I handled it. One said, I always felt something off about her. Another said, I'm glad you stood up for yourself. And then came the family fallout. My parents invited me to dinner to talk. I went because part of me still wants to believe we can be normal. The restaurant was loud and smelled like grilled meat and onions. My mom's face was tight the moment I sat down. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask if I was okay. She said, You got your sister fired. I took a breath. Lauren got Lauren fired, I said. My dad said, She made a mistake. I stared at him. She tried to destroy my reputation with fake evidence, I said. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. My mom's eyes flashed. She's your sister, she snapped. And I'm your daughter, I said, and my voice shook on the last word despite me trying to keep it even. Where was that energy when she was lying about me? Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she said, You've always been jealous of her. I actually laughed a short sound because it was so absurd it almost felt scripted. I'm jealous of what? I asked. Her ability to sabotage people and call it feelings? Dad leaned forward, voice low. She's struggling, he said. She needs support. I looked at them both and felt something heavy settle in my chest. So do I said. But you're not offering support. You're offering guilt. Mom's lip trembled. You're tearing this family apart, she whispered. I said, Lauren tore it apart when she decided my success was a threat. We left dinner with nothing resolved, just raw nerves. But I walked to my car feeling oddly clear. Painful, yes, but clear. Now, back to the story. The promotion panel happened on Thursday morning. I wore a navy blazer and a shirt I ironed twice because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I sat in the conference room with my laptop open, the clicker in my palm, and looked at the three faces across from me, HR, the VP, and Malcolm. My mouth was dry. I could taste mint from the gum I'd chewed in the elevator. I presented. I didn't perform. I just told the truth. What I'd built, what I'd fixed, what I'd led, what I'd saved the company in time and money. I showed metrics and client feedback and a timeline of improvements. I answered questions without getting defensive. I didn't mention Lauren once. When it ended, the VP nodded and said, Thank you, Hannah. We'll be in touch. I left the room and went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall and sat down on the closed lid because my legs felt like they'd stopped working. I pressed my hand over my mouth and breathed slowly until the shaking eased. Then I washed my face and went back to my desk like a normal person. 2 days later, Malcolm called me into his office and said, Congratulations. You got it. For a second, I couldn't speak. My chest felt too full. My eyes burned. "Thank you," I whispered. Malcolm nodded once, then added, "And for what it's worth, you handled this with more professionalism than most people I've seen." I walked out of his office and sat at my desk and stared at my screen, letting the reality settle. I didn't lose. I didn't get dragged down. I didn't get rewritten into someone else's story. Lauren tried to sabotage my promotion. I turned the tables by refusing to play her game. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I documented, escalated, and let the truth do what it does when you shine enough light on it. Lauren hasn't spoken to me since she got fired. She blocked me, then unblocked to send one last message a week later. "Enjoy being alone at the top." I didn't reply, because the top she's imagining is just me having what I earned. My parents are still cold. My mom texted on my promotion day. I heard, "Congrats."
No apology. No accountability.
Just a thin layer of politeness over a wound. But here's what's changed. I no longer feel responsible for making it comfortable for them to ignore what happened. I'm not begging for fairness. I'm building my life and letting them decide if they want to be in it honestly. Lauren is the kind of person who confuses envy with injustice. She genuinely believes the world owes her the things other people earn, and when she doesn't get them, she doesn't look inward. She looks for someone to blame and a system to manipulate. The fake screenshot is the line that makes this unforgivable. People can be immature, competitive, even petty, but fabricating evidence to destroy someone's professional reputation is malicious. That's not a sister having a bad day. That's someone who's comfortable lying when it benefits them. And the way she tried to frame it as protecting the team is classic. If you can wrap cruelty in a moral outfit, you can pretend you're still a good person while doing bad things. Malcolm deserves mixed reviews. He did the right thing by escalating to HR and investigating, but the fact he admitted he briefly believed it shows how dangerous smear tactics are in the workplace. Especially against women, who get labeled emotional and difficult for breathing wrong. HR and IT did their jobs properly, and I'll give them credit because not every company would. As for your parents, they're the most infuriating kind of enabling. They treat accountability like betrayal and loyalty like ignoring reality. "She made a mistake" is something you say when someone forgets an appointment, not when someone commits deliberate professional sabotage. Your mom's instinct to blame you for the consequences is exactly why Lauren felt safe doing this in the first place. She's been trained that no matter what she does, someone else will be told to smooth it over. Tyler-type family members and stay-neutral coworkers can be just as harmful because their discomfort becomes a shield for the person causing damage. And you? You finally acted like the lead character in your own life. You didn't win by being loud. You won by being precise. You documented. You stayed professional, and you refused to let her drag you into an emotional mess where she could point and say, "See? She's unstable." The funniest part is Lauren's alone at the top text because she can't imagine success without isolation. She thinks climbing means stepping on people because that's how she moves. But what you did wasn't stepping on her. It was stepping away from her sabotage and letting policy and truth do their work. If she wants to rebuild her life, she can start with honesty. If your parents want a relationship with you, they can start with accountability. Until then, you have a promotion you earned and a spine you finally stopped loaning out to people who never planned to return it.